This is Connected, episode 141. Today's show is brought to you so kindly by Encapsula and Away. My name is Mike Hurley, and I am so happy to say that the band is back together. We have the frontman, Mr. Federico Vitici.
Hey, Mike.
Hi, Federico. And producer slash songwriter slash drummer, Stephen Hackett.
I've never been a drummer, but I did play bass in high school and college.
I don't see you as a drummer.
So close.
No, bassist.
I went
Super
with,
cool.
I don't know. I didn't want to say he was a guitarist. I don't know why, so I just went with drummer. I was maybe angling towards trumpet or something, but I just couldn't think of a funny enough instrument.
I see Stephen more as a producer slash impresario of sorts. You know?
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
Frontman, hype man.
So we have big news. Big news to start the show.
Uh-oh.
The first link in the show notes, if you go to your app right now, go to the webpage relay.fm/connected/141. There is a link to an Eventbrite page where we have tickets up to the public now for our Chicago show on Sunday, October 15th. This is the show we're doing in conjunction with the Release Notes conference. Most of the tickets went to Release Notes attendees, but there are a handful left available to the public. So if you want one and you're still listening to me, then you need to stop and click the link because they're probably already gone.
Yeah, it's too late. If you wait to the end of that sentence, it's too late.
Probably.
So, sorry. We hope you got a ticket, though. We hope
do.
you stopped halfway through.
We do. There's a wait list, as there always is. And we're excited to see y'all in Chicago. So all three of us will be on stage doing a Connected. We can do follow-up in real life in person. That episode will be released that week as the normal show. So if you aren't there, it's not like special content. It's locked away for those audience members. It is our normal episode that week. So we're super excited to be doing it with Release Notes. Thank you again to those guys for helping make it possible. They've really done all the hard work for this. We're just basically just showing up and plugging in some microphones. So thanks to Release Notes. And yeah, we'll see you there.
It's Windy City, right? The Windy City.
Windy City.
Oh, good.
There's a rumor going around that I'm going to be eating deep dish pizza on stage, the Chicago one. Just wanted to say that it is not true. It's not happening, but maybe off stage we could arrange an Instagram story, Mike.
Because I want to try it. I want to try what I've heard of is pizza casserole, is what I've been told.
It's very much
it's
like
kind
that.
of more like. So I want to try it because I've never tried it. So there will be a consumption of deep dish. It's either where we eat it or fall into it. I'm not sure which one it's gonna end up being. I guess you have to be there to find out. So hope you got a ticket.
So there'll be lots of fun stuff. We'll be at the conference. We're going to be in Chicago for about a week together, so it'll be a lot of fun.
Making trouble.
But it is time to move on to follow-up. And the first piece of follow-up I have many questions about, mostly for Federico. So to set the stage a little bit, a couple of weeks ago, Apple announced that the affiliate program for apps, so if you link to an app in a blog post or in a tweet with a special link, you would get 7% of that sell coming out of Apple's 30%. So it's not coming out of the developer's pockets, coming out of Apple's, as a thank you for linking to the App Store. And they had this big email, and I thought it was very clear, I think all of us thought it was very clear, that apps are getting cut to 2.5%, not 7%. And there was lots of hand-wringing, a lot of sites, including Mac Stories and 512 Pixels and Sweet Setup that I do editing for, a bunch of projects that you as a listener know and love depend on this income. And it was going to be slashed. And it turns out that Apple clarified in air quotes. I think they walked it back. But Federico,
JK.
What did they say?
So I was doing some research on the affiliate program a couple of nights ago, and just to make sure, I went to the Apple affiliate website, and they do have a blog, which is like a news page. It doesn't have an RSS feed, and it's just one of those unknown blogs that you really gotta go look for. And there was an update from May 5, so that would be a Friday, saying commission update is very terse, very short update. And it was literally saying, we just want to clarify some of the previous changes that we communicated over email on the commissions for the affiliate program. And we wanted to clarify that only the commission on in-app purchases, it's going to drop to 2.5%. All other commissions, including apps and books and TV shows, it's going to remain at 7%. And Apple used the term clarify, but it wasn't really clarify, because if you compare the original announcement from the email and the updated announcement, you can clearly see how what Apple refers to app content, which would be paid iOS apps, was not in the first email when they were mentioning the 7%, but it was in the commission update on the blog. So what Apple did was they didn't send an email to the members of the affiliate program. They posted on this blog that no one follows on May 5. And I noticed on 2 days later, so no other blog had noticed this update from Apple. They didn't send an email. They didn't send any update. I just went there and realized, they just reverted the change. They're backtracking on the commissions for paid iOS apps. So basically, now paid iOS apps and Mac apps are going to stay at 7%. The commission paid out to the members of the affiliate program. Only in-app purchases are going to go to 2.5%. And yes, Apple did say we're clarifying, but to me that's basically backtracking on a previous decision. I don't know why it happened. I suppose they heard the feedback from a lot of members of the program, or maybe it was just a mistake. I mean, must be a very odd circumstance to get that wrong.
Yeah.
Which makes me believe it wasn't a mistake, it was a decision. Then they heard the outcry from members of the program and some websites and podcasts, and they decided, well, it's not worth it. Maybe it's a bad PR move.
Right.
Maybe it's bad for the ecosystem. I don't know, but they're gonna, keep it at 7%.
Yeah.
What I don't understand is why they did this, changed their minds, or clarified an incorrect statement or whatever it was, but they didn't tell anyone. They just left it on that blog that nobody reads.
Nobody reads, and I just stumbled upon it accidentally almost, because I just wanted to double check everything on the Apple affiliate website, and I saw this link, go to the news page. I was like, okay, let's go to the news page, and I saw this update from Friday. So between posting on a Friday, I guess in the afternoon, and without sending an email, and this one paragraph notice, it's kind of funny, and it makes me wonder if this move of cutting the commissions was really done to prevent, paying out large amounts of money to, as I speculated 2 weeks ago, to maybe big players like Facebook or Google or Twitter, big social networks that use their affiliate codes to earn commissions on apps that are displayed on those services as native app install ads. And because, the majority of app install ads that you see on Facebook, for example, if Facebook does use the affiliate program, but the majority of those apps are freemium games and freemium apps. So free downloads that have in-app purchases for gems or, those types of freemium games. Makes me wonder if maybe the move was supposed to cut that money to players like Facebook and Google and Bing. I don't know.
But why can't they just find a way to stop people making affiliate money from their own applications?
Right, there should be a sort of tiers in the program. If you make over, I don't know, $500,000 a year, probably you should get a smaller piece of the pie of the affiliate commission. That's what I would do. I would, for indie websites, I would keep one type of commissions, but for other social networks and people who really make a lot of money, the commission should be lower. And that's what makes the most sense to me. Instead, they're going to slash the in-app purchase for everyone, which is not necessarily great news for indie websites. And, because a lot of apps these days tend to be free with subscriptions or in-app purchases. But still, from my perspective, it's still good news to have 7% on paid apps, because those are the apps that I tend to prefer, the productivity apps that I tend to write about. But it's definitely an interesting move, and I don't understand why the change happened in the first place and why it was miscommunicated or mismanaged. I have no idea.
Surprise!
So,
Workflow's back.
Yeah.
Can you really be back if you never went away?
There were many reports that it was dead. I think our friends at ATP began this situation.
Well, I mean, that came from a comment from like workflow support team. So I think it's probably premature to call this back from the dead.
Well,
but,
I mean, okay, so whatever came from the support team, what was reported was no more updates of any kind coming to workflow. Like, that was the tone, and everyone was like, that's it, it's done. They wrapped it up and they moved away. And that's not the case, right? Like, what we have is there has been an update. The update restores some functionality and has actually made some feature enhancements as well. Like, I was expecting maybe this would just be restoring for the companies that have said, yes, you can use our stuff again, which includes Chrome, which I'm so happy about. Google Chrome actions are back, and Pocket have been added. But it's also added some Apple Music functions, but also made some improvements. Like, one of them, which is something that I was really hoping for, which I think we spoke about. I think we spoke about the episode when we were just talking about workflow before it got sold, and I was talking about how dictionaries just have a random order, right, which is apparently a thing. But now, when they're kind of chained to lists, when they're supposed to be presented as a list, they now fix the order in place, which I think is great.
Yeah, that I guess that workflow was able to basically rewrite their own JSON and dictionary support, so to make sure that items preserve their order.
I feel like they were just saying to me, like, we're so sorry about the stress we've caused you, so here you go, here's your feature. I think that's what happened.
Yeah, that's definitely how it went down.
They put it on a whiteboard, right? Like, make Mike happy again, and then
fix for Mike. Yeah, sure. I mean, the big idea here is that these are no major features. Like, it's not the type of update that introduces magic variables or web APIs. It's an update with some new features, but they're not groundbreaking, major functionalities added to workflow. It's still good to see that Apple is investing in the app with bug fixes, various improvements, minor additions, maybe you could say. With Apple Music, you can now manage your playback queue and restoring some of the actions that got pulled with the acquisition. I don't know what to think. I want to be optimistic, because this means there's still people working on it. There's still people listening and monitoring the problems with the app and fixing those. I don't know if it means, well, we can prepare for that kind of aggressive release schedule that Workflow used to have when it was an independent app, or somewhere in the middle. I don't want to say the Workflow is dead, and I also don't want to say that it's in a limbo. It's somewhere in between those two states. It's not going to have a redesign, I believe. It's not going to have new major additions, but it will probably receive bug fixes, improvements, and these minor changes. They're still welcome. And I want to be optimistic, but I don't know how many of these we'll get. In the meantime, I just wanted to say how I'm still using Workflow. I'm still creating workflows, because the app functions as always. And now it's even better because they fixed a bunch of things. So it's not like... because I saw some people that are abandoning Workflow out of principle, even if it's still working great, and even if it got an update yesterday, there's still people who are going to say, well, I'm not spending any more time in this app because it's dead. And I think that's... everyone is free to do whatever they want, but I think that's, counterintuitive. I mean, if the app works and if it can save you time, why not just keep using it? But, some people, they took very precise and strong stance on things.
I kind of feel the way that you do. Like, I don't expect to ever see something like a magic variables added to this application, right? Like this application as we have it right now. But I am hopeful, and I have faith that we will see things like this. If there's a bug that needs to be fixed, it'll be fixed. If there's a slight improvement that can be made, they'll make it. Whilst the Workflow team, I'm sure, are working on some cool stuff inside of Apple. But really, honestly, for the time being, that's all I want. Like, I just want to know that the app is receiving some support until something comes along to replace it, right? Like, that's kind of, for me, in the situation that we're in, the best case scenario.
Yeah, and it's definitely, if Workflow gets integrated with iOS, or if it gets a major 2.0 update, I believe there's a very strong possibility that it's not going to be this year. It's not going to be, in 3 weeks at WWDC, we're going to see a whole new Workflow. I don't think that's the case. I don't think we'll see Workflow as an iOS feature this year. But, maybe next year, maybe with a point update to iOS 11, whenever that happens, that could be, but I wouldn't expect it in 3 weeks.
It is, yeah, it does show how recent it was, right? Like, if it was only a couple of months ago and WWDC's in 3 weeks, I agree with that. I just can't imagine we see anything that's like, oh, that's what the workflow team went to do.
Yeah.
Like, it just doesn't feel like it would be now for me. Like, it could be next WWDC, it could be somewhere in between, but I don't think we're going to see it in June. All right, should we take a break?
Yeah.
Today's show is brought to you by Encapsula, the multifunction content delivery network that boosts the performance of your website, protects it from denial of service attacks, and secures it from the bad guys, those bad guys, whilst ensuring high availability. Let me tell you what those bad guys do. Those bad guys attack websites, and this happens every day. Sites of all sizes can be attacked. Criminals will use giant botnets to scrape website content, try to break into databases, and then bring down sites with denial of service attacks. Encapsula's network holds 3 terabits per second of on-demand scrubbing capacity and can process 30 billion attacks per second. This is why Encapsula's network has successfully defended some of the largest website attacks on record. You'll be able to see anything as it happens on the Encapsula dashboard to help you adjust your security policies on the fly. And if something bad does happen, their powerful CDN ensures that your content is delivered to your customers fast. People will never even know that something bad was happening. They would just be going to your website as normal. As a listener of this show, you can get 1 whole month of service for free. All you need to do is go to encapsula.com/connected. That's INCAPSULA.com/connected. You'll find out more here about Encapsula's service and claim your free month. Thank you so much to Encapsula for their support of this show and Relay FM.
So, in the last couple of weeks, Federico has been secretly launching a new Kickstarter project, it seems.
Oh, God. No.
There's a link in the show notes, and I think the best way to sum this up is an iPhone case that can make espresso for
Yeah, that
you.
is the most efficient way of summing that up.
Why would you have so little faith in me that you think this could be my project?
But it
I
is the
mean, you like
intersection of the
iPhones?
things that you love, right?
It is.
Yeah.
It is the anti-Federico. This thing here, making an espresso with your phone, with liquid coffee that comes out of a case on the back of your iPhone. That is like against all of my life principles.
Let me rewind a little bit for people that don't know what we're talking about, which is probably most of everybody. This Kickstarter project came across our views somehow. And it is, as we have been joking, the exact product is, it is an iPhone case that has the ability to dispense coffee. You put these like capsules or something in the side, these like card capsules in the side. It heats it up and you pour coffee via the use of an application. I'm not sure how the app helps, but apparently it does. It's also for Samsung phones as well. I don't think it's just an iPhone case. And it will pour coffee out of the top of the case. That is what it does. So you will always be able to have hot coffee no matter where you are. You can just pour it out of the case that you have your phone in. It's a concerning idea.
It is a terrible idea. I mean, I do appreciate the enterprising nature of the project. Also because it comes from a bunch of Italian folks. It's good to see Italians.
You should watch the video,
trying
by the way.
things.
It's terrible and brilliant.
The video is terrible. The video with the stranger approaching a lady on the street,
Walking into a lamppost.
an espresso from a phone. It's both creepy and concerning from from many points of view. And I don't even know what to say. There's so many, Americans call them coffee shops. We call them bars in Italy. The bar in Italy, it's not when you go get it like booze at night. It's where you go eat a sandwich or grab an espresso. And literally in any Italian city, there's like a bar within 100 meters of each other, usually. I'm not sure what the American unit is for that. Probably 1,000,000 inches. Anyway, there's so little need for this kind of product. You have to buy a case and you have to carry the case on your phone at the risk of having boiling water in the back of your device, pouring out coffee from a capsule, which is liquid coffee, not even freshly grounded coffee. It's just, I don't even know. Why not just walk into a bar and ask for an actual espresso?
It is worth noting at this point that yesterday, Kickstarter suspended this campaign. And basically what that means is Kickstarter are very aware of the fact that this product will never exist, right? Like, they may well believe they're going to do this, but it's extremely unlikely that people would be able to make this product. And if they do, it actually doesn't really help anybody. They had a 75,000 euro goal. They got 90 backers with 4,000 euros raised, and then Kickstarter came in and just threw down the banhammer. But we still thought that it was ridiculous enough to mention on the show. I love everything about it. The video is so funny in so many ways. My favorite part is when they're like in their office pointing at screens, right? They're like, look at technology. And like they have these graphics come up on the screen, and there's one of them where it's like, oh, it's a white text overlaid over the top of a white computer screen, so you can't read it. And I just love stuff like that. It's like, you tried so hard, but like, no, but you couldn't get stuff like that right. Like, you just fix that. Just don't do that. It's brilliant. Like, people are just like running their hands over things and like pointing at stuff. It's fantastic.
I'm not sure if this is supposed to be a piece of performance art on the internet, but the real news for me here is that 90 people across the world have lost their minds if they back this project. This is the takeaway from this Kickstarter. So those 90 people, pay attention where they might be.
Those 90 people could all know the company, right? Like, that's a whole other thing. Also, they were so proud of their patent that they got. They put a scan of the certificate in the campaign.
Yeah. I have a lot of questions about that piece of paper. It looks like it's a patent application done by like a fourth grader in like Microsoft Publisher. It's not a good look.
This is patent for project.
Is that what it says?
No, but it was like a logo of the Italian government. It's like the Republic of Italy grants this application pending status.
Let me ask you, Federico. I'm sure you've dealt with the Italian government. Does this look like a document the Italian government could have created?
Let me take a look again. So the product, by the way, is called the Mo case. I'm not sure we mentioned. Well, I mean, the logo is kind of stretched. The Italian logo. I don't know. It might as well be, because these official documents tend to be
right?
terrible. They never look good. They never look good. But I don't know. There's a number. There's an ID. So, there's an ID. Might as well be real.
I could check it.
I'm searching for the number on what I think is the Italian government's patent search page, but it's on Italian. Deep. So I can't really tell.
If only we knew someone.
I know. Well, he was talking. If I did it correctly, and who knows what this page actually says, not me, then it says 0 results.
So,
but
hold on a second.
Sure.
I'm looking at the page, and you could actually use the Samsung S7 Edge. Isn't that the phone that used to explode?
No, that was the Note. This is the Edge.
That makes your coffee really hot.
I was already imagining a coffee explosion in the middle of the street. Some guy just walking and coffee explodes all over the place.
Preheating. Just preheating.
Optimizations, yeah. Anyway, I mean, I guess there's people who might want this kind of coffee. So, look, I'm not judging. I'm just saying, come hang out with me for a day, and I'll take you around a bunch of bars in Rome, and we could have actual good coffee. And you can also go to the Apple Store and get an actual case. That seems like a better investment for your phone. Or the Samsung store. I'm sure there's some of those.
And an espresso machine, if that's what you really want in your life.
Are there any Huawei stores? Or LG stores?
I don't think they have dedicated stores. I think Samsung might be the only one that does.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I don't know. It's
beautiful, is what it is.
This
is the wonders of human advancement right here. This is when it goes ever so slightly wrong.
Have you seen the little cup that goes with the product?
Yeah, little travel cup. Those things are great, though. Those things are great. Those little travel cups. iTunes Connect app analytics. So this is not a new thing, right? Like this has existed before, but they added some new functionality in that now you can actually see where your customers are coming from. So in the past, when App Analytics was announced, I think like 2 years ago, I think from my knowledge, basically just provided you information about how many people have come to your page, and it gave you some breakdowns of how they got there from inside of the store, right? So like if they were searching for your app or something, or coming from browsing. But now you get information like where those people are coming from, so you can find it like the websites that they come from, so you get links, and maybe you can see if people come from whatever marketing campaigns and stuff you've been setting up. I assume that this is a very good thing for developers, right? Like any more information is better than no information. Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good change, especially because Apple has waited for so long to add this kind of options to the app analytics. And I've already seen some reactions from developers on Twitter saying, well, I just realized that 80% of our customers come from search on the App Store, so now we're investing on search ads. And I almost wonder if Apple realized we should add search metrics and information to the iTunes Connect so developers are more incentivized to buy search ads, because they realize that search is such a huge component of how customers discover their software. So it's sort of a self-reinforcing loop for Apple. We roll out analytics and developers realize that search is important, so now they buy more search ads.
Just for general marketing, it's better, right? So, like, if a developer buys a marketing spot on Mac Stories or on 512 Pixels, they're going to know if people are clicking those links and going to the store. Where previously you'd either have to put your own page in the middle, which is not elegant enough, or you'd just be like crossing your fingers and hoping and trying to do some kind of wizardry on statistics to work out if maybe there'd been some kind of effect. But now you can actually trace that stuff back, which is useful to have if you're working in this kind of web business like this, where links are occurring. It's that data is available, and now it's there for people to see. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Phil Schiller gave an interview to a website called Gadgets 360. What does anybody know what that is? Gadgets 360?
It's gadgets mixed with an Xbox.
It looks like it is a.
I believe it's part of a larger network of sites in India.
India, right? Yeah. Okay, cool. I wondered what country.
I just realized it's called NDTV, like India. NDTV.
I don't know if
there it is.
Okay, cool. We're gonna go with that.
That's clever.
And he spoke about two things that were kind of interesting. One is voice assistants and voice canisters and voice boxes, like the Echo, the Google Home, that kind of stuff. I want to read you a couple of quotes that Schiller spoke about. He says, there's many moments where a voice assistant is really beneficial, but that doesn't mean you'd never want a screen. So if the idea of not having a screen, I don't think suits many situations. We're going to talk a little bit later on about the Amazon Echo Show. But this is Schiller gave these reports before there were even any rumors of this product, or strong rumors of this product. He also went on to say, I think voice assistants are incredibly powerful. Their intelligence is going to grow. They're going to do more for us, but the role of the screen is going to remain very important to all of this. Phil Schiller really is doubling down on these things having screens. So my expectation, we were talking last week about rumors of a Apple voice assistant box, like a Siri in a can, popping up at some point. I think we can assume that this thing's going to have a screen on it, right?
I mean, it sure seems like that's where they're headed with this. Anytime Apple talks about a market they're not in, it's important to pay attention to how they speak about it. So there was kind of one of the more famous examples of Steve Jobs saying no one wants to watch a video on their iPod, and then like 6 months later, there's an iPod with video. But in conjunction with that, they had the iTunes Store with TV shows, and they introduced a whole ecosystem kind of all at once. Here, I can't help but think it's a similar thing where there's lots of rumors that they're working on this. Like we spoke about last week, these products need a display to fall back to when they can't tell you the information verbally. And I think Apple's thinking about that as like the whole thing, and they don't want to kick people to an app. Whether or not we see this, like we spoke about last week, in the next couple of weeks or sometime in the next year, I would be really surprised after all of this if it does not have a screen as part of the product.
I think it's also interesting that, like, when Schiller's gone on record with these types of things before, he's talking about, like, the device you have with you, right? Like, that's been the whole thing. And it seems like that they're kind of changing that tune a little bit now, right? That these things don't necessarily have to be in your pocket, which is definitely the route that Apple has gone down before by kind of being like, oh, your iPhone's the best digital voice assistant because it's always in your pocket. But now it's kind of just like, these things need screens, right? And I think that's kind of interesting, the way they're kind of like bundling it all up now to be like, the one in your pocket's really great. They're still saying that by saying they need screens, but then also like thinking about what they could end up launching themselves. There you go, could have a screen.
I wonder if adding a screen is also a way to entice people to buy this product, and if those people don't have an iPhone or don't have an iPad with the main screen, with the main app, if they don't have the main Apple device, well, the speaker with the screen could be the only screen that they're interacting with. You know, if you want to sign into your iCloud account, or if you want to manage Apple Music playlists, you don't have an iPhone, but you really want the Apple speaker, now you can do all things, you know, configuration, setup, and, you know, even confirming some actions, you can do them from the speaker, even if you don't have an iPhone or if you don't have an Apple Watch.
Mm-hmm. Maybe this is why the iPad mini is still for sale. They need to keep making the screen so they can bolt it to this thing.
Could be, actually.
That's not a wild thing to say. It really isn't.
No.
Like, it makes a lot of sense. Weirdly, there was one other thing that I wanted to pick out of this article. Schiller gave a bunch of quotes about upgrade pricing in the App Store. So he was questioned about this by Gadgets 360. This just seems like, where is this coming from again? But we're back on that train. And I think he kind of, to me anyway, these quotes kind of shut it all down. So he said, the reason we haven't done this is that it's much more complex than people know, and that's okay. It's our job to think about complex problems. But the App Store has reached so many successful milestones without it, so without upgrade pricing, because the business model makes sense to customers. So he's talking about the new business models make sense to customers. And then he goes on to say, and the upgrade model, which I know very well from my days of running many large software programs, is a model from the shrink-wrapped software days that for some developers is still very important. For most, it's not really a part of the future we are going. I think for many developers, subscription model is a better way to go than to try and come up with a list of features and different pricing for upgrade versus for new customers. I mean, it kind of seems a bit like he's just shutting it down now, right? It's like, I understand people want upgrade pricing. That's not where we are now, right? Like, we have new tools, use those.
I do think, and I posted this on Mac Stories, I think it's a complex issue, and I see some of the points that Schiller mentioned as valid. I do think that the App Store has found incredible success with the simpler model. You know, you don't have to think about, do I own an existing license? And what is the price if I'm a new customer or if I'm an old customer? So the App Store is easy to use. But at the same time, I also realize that some developers could have used something like upgrade pricing years ago when the iPad was new, for example, or even when the iPad Pro was new, when iOS 9 came out, and a lot of developers were wondering, we want to make professional apps on the App Store for the iPad, but how do we monetize this? Because we've seen that paid apps are not going to cut it for us anymore, and we want to retain our best customers. And it's important to remember that this discussion, the upgrade pricing discussion, has been going on for years now, and Apple only added subscriptions for all categories of apps on the App Store last year, and I'm talking about the auto-renewable subscriptions that you buy with your iTunes account and they renew automatically. It was rolled out last year. So I think it's valid in both ways. I think Schiller has a point that the App Store is easy to use, but I also hear the concerns of developers who say, we're not sure how to monetize our apps because we've struggled to implement in-app purchases, and many of our customers don't want to subscribe. They just want to pay once, but stay with us over the years. And Schiller is saying, well, you should really look into subscriptions now, because that's the way that you can do free trials. That's the way that you can do discounts for, people who migrate between different groups of subscriptions. And that for Apple seems to be the way forward. I just feel like if subscriptions were rolled out years ago, maybe 3 years ago, the upgrade pricing discussion would have settled a long time ago. Instead, we're still talking about it because, it's relatively a new thing. And, there are some apps trying subscriptions, and I've done some research this week. It's maybe slightly more than I was expecting. but it still feels like we're in the early stages of developers of productivity apps and utilities considering subscriptions. So it's still early, and I want to see what happens at WWDC.
I'm sure that there are lots of apps that are using subscriptions. I feel like I'm not seeing as many as I expected in the applications that I use. And I do use a lot of professional apps, right? Like I use a lot of apps that could very well be put behind a subscription. And I don't feel like I'm seeing as many as I thought I would see. And I wonder why that's the case. Like, you know, applications that I've seen in the past that do like the really clunky upgrade model, right? Like, here's a new application, it's a brand new app, pay it. Like, I use a bunch of apps that have used that model in the past that haven't attempted, or it seems, to move over to subscriptions. I mean, of course, there's always a time for that to change, right? Where they could do it as they're getting ready for a new big version. But I was honestly really expecting to see more than what I'm seeing here. So it kind of confuses me, where I'm like, a lot of the indie development community is still asking for upgrade pricing, but they haven't changed their business models in the way that Apple clearly wants them to. Because I honestly really do not see Apple adding upgrade pricing to the App Store. I don't think it's going to happen. It would be a big change to the overall market and the overall business for a small set of users, because you know, you've got such a small set of applications that would take advantage of it, and then a small set of those users that would actually make the upgrades, that it makes more sense for them to try and double down on newer ways of doing things, like charging subscriptions, which is a newer business model, or in-app purchases, right? Like free with in-app purchase type applications. It makes more sense, I think, for Apple to push on those. I know that it's a struggle for a bunch of developers who either can't do subscriptions for whatever reason, or don't want to, or are not sure how to make it work. But I feel like if you're still running a business that is reliant on upgrade pricing, I mean, that ship sailed 10 years ago now. Like, I love you, but find a new way to charge for your application, because, as I say, it's been 10 years and it hasn't been here. So I don't think it's ever going to come. But even if it does, you should probably stop waiting and try and do something else. I'm sorry, I love you.
Yeah. Look, I think developers are well aware of the fact that the realities of the App Store are different, and they're never going to be the same as the shareware era of macOS software. And I see some developers trying new approaches. Yep. And I see some developers trying subscriptions, trying free trials, which Apple now condones, by the way. If you use a subscription model, you can do a free trial. You actually have a bunch of options. And I was at the sessions at WWDC last year on subscriptions. There's a lot that you can try and experiment with. You can do groups. You can do trials. You get a higher commission if a user stays with you for over a year. There's a grace period. There's a lot of settings for developers who want to try subscriptions, and it's pretty sweet, actually. But I feel like, at the same time, if Apple wants to insist on this idea that if you want to do a professional app on the App Store, and I do believe that we need many of those. We need the App Store to have not just weather apps, maximum respect to weather apps and calculators, but we also need more serious software. And there's only half of the story coming from Apple. So yes, we do have subscriptions. What other incentives do we have? Can we make iPad apps? Can we make professional apps that are just as powerful as the Mac counterparts? So it's pretty sweet that we can do subscriptions, but do we have the APIs to make those professional apps as powerful, as intuitive, and as flexible as they can be on the desktop? Because otherwise people are just going to create web apps and desktop apps and charge on their own stores. So it's great that iTunes Connect has these options now, but it also needs to happen on an API and SDK level. They need to allow developers to make powerful stuff and charge for it with the new model. But I only think we're halfway there.
I think it's interesting, too, that Schiller framed it the way that he did. Before he was Apple, he was at Macromedia, talking like 20 years ago. And like in saying that, he's really saying, to your point, Mike, this is an old way of thinking about it. And as you guys were talking, I was just looking through my iPhone, my home screen and apps I use a lot. And there are a lot of those apps that I do pay for, but they're not necessarily subscriptions in the App Store. Something like Todoist is free, but I'm paying for a premium account, through their website. Or like 1Password, I pay for, Teams and Family. So I'm paying, on an ongoing basis to use it, but the app itself is free. So even if you're not paying for an app subscription through the store, many of the apps and services we use, there's some sort of account component that you're paying for. But I agree with you guys. It's a really outdated way of thinking about it. And, you can say that it was prematurely put out to pasture because Apple structured the way that they did. But like, that's beside the point because Apple controls it. Like, you may be mad that Apple got rid of a business model you used to use, but without the App Store, there would be no business model to be had. So I think holding on to that is, while it's understandable, the time has passed, and I think that the subscription model Apple has laid out is the way forward. And, there was a lot of talk in the beginning about subscription fatigue. Like, I was going to be paying $3 a month for 100 apps. I don't think that's happened to anybody. And I agree with you that it may increase over time as, apps get updated. But I think that that upgrade fatigue is real too. And if every time you upgraded a version of an iOS app and they pinged you for more money, I think people would get tired of that, and people would be hesitant to update their apps because they're unsure if it's free or if it's going to be paid. They don't want to be surprised. And so I think subscriptions make the whole thing more predictable for a user, which is what users want. And they give developers who do the work to earn that money, they give them reliable income each month. And that's what developers want. It's a win-win. And so I think it's just time to move on.
Speaking of which, let's move on. This episode of Connected is brought to you by Away. Your luggage shouldn't cost more than your plane ticket, and that's why Away make premium suitcases with fantastic features for just under $300, believe it or not. Go to awaytravel.com/connected and you'll be able to peruse Away's collection of suitcases, all made with premium German polycarbonate, which is unrivaled in strength and impact resistance, while still remaining lightweight. Away offers 4 sizes of suitcase: the carry-on, the bigger carry-on, the medium, and the large, and they have 9 fantastic colors for you to choose from. I just did a bunch of traveling in April. On one of the trips, we were coming back from Romania, and both of our suitcases were coming out of the carousel, and Adina's comes first, and she has this huge crack in it, and then mine comes perfectly fine. So that is the German polycarbonate at work with my Away suitcase, which I was taking with me. I really love my Away suitcase. It was fantastic for some of the trips that I was taking it on because it has the 4 wheels, which I really love, the 360-degree 4 wheels, which is awesome. So much better than 2 wheels. It has a removable washable laundry bag. So when you're at the place that you're at, you can just take this laundry bag out from a little zip pocket and just put your dirty laundry in there. You can zip it all up and then put it back in the case when you're done, which I really like, so it keeps everything separate. Of course, the best feature is the USB power brick, which is on the carry-on models. So you always have a battery with you to charge your phone. It's fantastic. All of their carry-ons are compliant with major US airlines, and they all maximize the amount that you can pack because they have this amazing compression system, which lets you stuff tons of stuff into these cases. Away believe in the quality of their products. They offer a lifetime guarantee. If anything breaks, they'll fix it or replace it for life. They have a 100-day trial as well. So you can try it, you can live with it, you can travel with it, and if at any point you decide your Away case isn't for you, you can return it for a full refund, no questions asked, and they have free shipping on any order within the lower 48 states of the US, but they do ship to other places around the world as well. Travel smarter with the suitcase that charges your phone. Go to awaytravel.com/connected and use the code CONNECTED at checkout, and you'll get $20 off any of their suitcases. That's awaytravel.com/connected and the code CONNECTED for $20 off. Thank you so much to Away for their support of this show and Relay FM. So just before the episode today, Amazon announced the Echo Show. The Echo Show.
Is that a podcast?
Yeah, it's a new podcast. It's me and Jeff Bezos, and we're just in a really big room, and there's just a lot of echo, right? Get it? Get it, right?
Wow. No. The show is over, guys. Go check out the show notes.
Wait, is this the Echo show notes? What are we talking about now? I'm really confused.
Oh, God.
Okay,
Why?
so the Echo Show. It will be released on June 28th for $229. There's no international release or pricing information as of the time of recording. It features a 7-inch touchscreen, a 5-megapixel camera mounted on the front for video calling, powerful room-filling speakers with Dolby processing, which is something we lifted off of the page, so it sounds a bit marketing-y. And it has the same 8 microphone away as in the tall Echo, so it can hear you from other rooms and it can do all noise cancellation and stuff like that. So it's got everything the current Echo has, the big long tube, with a touchscreen on the front of it. Now, what can you do with said touchscreen, Stephen?
You can do all sorts of things. You can touch it and you can see things. It's
Touchscreen.
Does both.
Should be a product developer, Steven.
I know.
Wow.
So they, from their marketing page, is really all we have at this point. The flash briefings that are part of the Echo service now, so you can say, "Hey, what's the news?" and you get audio. They're working with content providers to do video, so you could ask it what the news is. And I guess Steven Inskeep from NPR walks out on your Echo and tells you the news.
Oh, they should do it that way. Right? Where someone's walking across the bottom of the screen and they're like, "Hey there, let me tell you about the news."
Hey. Yeah, I'd be all for that.
All right, we're going to pivot, everyone.
It seems like it'll do YouTube playback, although I'm not quite sure if it's like a YouTube client or you just talk to it and it pulls you something. If you're listening to Amazon Music, so if you like any of the 6 albums that are streaming on Amazon Music, you can see the lyrics for those. You can see footage from security cameras that connect with the Echo service. So I have Nest cams at home and I have a Canary. Neither of them work with this. So I'm questioning everything about my security camera setup. But you could ask it to show security footage from like the front porch and it shows you a live stream of that, which is super nice.
It works with 2 different providers right now. It's Ring, who do the doorbells and cameras, and it's one other company's name I can't remember. I'd never heard of them before.
Yes.
You think the Arlo camera?
Yeah.
Arlo.
Yeah, that's Netgear, I think. It's the Netgear brand for cameras, if I recall correctly, I think.
Okay. So that I think is pretty compelling. They're going to have some other stuff on there, weather forecast. You can see your shopping list, to-do list, and that sort of stuff. So it's a way to sort of bring that content more to life than just what they can do with just a speaker. So it seems like kind of a natural evolution. But they're also adding video conferencing via this Echo and the companion mobile app. And it seems like they're doing audio calling for all devices, so we could talk on our Echoes. If your iPhone isn't nearby, I guess. I don't know. But I did sort of laugh. Our friend Zach, who writes at 9to5Mac, tweeted, "Echo with a camera and no display." So talking about last week. Creepy. Echo with a camera and a screen. Okay. So I did kind of laugh at that.
I'm sure you can see the difference, right? Like, I know why.
What's the difference?
Okay, so one of the reasons people find the look, I guess, a little bit creepier, although I don't think it is, as we were talking about last week, that's going in the bedroom, right? Like, I think that's one of the things, is it's going in the bedroom, which is what people don't like.
That's how they're marketing it.
So I think that the marketing that you were seeing for the look was kind of different. I don't know. I don't think they're creepy, but I can see why people would say that. Plus, there is this weird thing about the screen. It's like, oh, I know these devices. But no screen, it's like, what are you doing in there? Like there's just this like nebulousness about it when there's like no UI. So you're like, are you looking at me? Like you can't see what it's doing because it's giving you no visual, and it's got lights and stuff or whatever. But like we're used to, like I'm looking at the big screen right now and there's a camera on top. There's another one right there. There's another one right there. I look at one all day. I'm used to that. But like these little cameras that just sit there quietly, they're a little bit more creepy looking, I think, because it's a security camera, right? Like I think we're maybe a little bit more like there are these security cameras all around us. We don't know who's looking. Yeah, I don't know. This is a different mental thing. But I do get the joke.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. I agree with you. Like, it's just the marketing. But yeah, so they're going to do video conferencing with it, which I think is really interesting. This comes at a time where any smartphone, iPhone or not, can do video conferencing. And Mike, I think you have some thoughts around like the pros and cons of that.
Yeah, I think it's kind of strange so this device, this Echo Show, you're going to set it up in a place in your house, right? It's probably going to be the kitchen because that's where most people tend to put their Echoes. It may change with this device, but like let's just imagine it's all going to go in the kitchen. if you want to make a video call, like everyone has to go to the kitchen and like stand in front of the device. It just seems strange to me. Like you're like, oh, I need to call grandma. Let me go to the kitchen, and then all the whole family like huddles around the kitchen counter to look at. Like with our devices now that we have, you can be anywhere you want to be, and they're in your hand, and you're holding them up, and it's fine, right? Like it's easy.
Yeah, but Amazon is adding calling and messaging to the Alexa app on iOS
No, that's
and
great.
Android. Also.
Like, no, that's awesome. I think that's great. That's a really good thing. But I'm just saying, like this one device, the Echo Show. Right, like the idea of there being video conferencing on that one device, it just seems strange to me. It's like, it doesn't really feel like the setting in which you would make these calls. Having the audio calls, which is now coming to all of the devices, audio calling makes way more sense to me for the same reasons that the Echo currently works, right? With audio calling, you could be walking around a bit, right? You don't have to be looking at the device. You can have your back to the device, especially if the microphones are as good as we think they are. Right, you could be on the other side of the room and it will pick you up fine when you're speaking to people. And with audio calling, you can continue doing whatever you're doing, right? So like I could be, as I'm always doing, right, when I'm using the Echo, I'm cooking, right? So I'm cooking. I can be having an audio call. A video call whilst I'm cooking doesn't really work so well. So I can see why they're adding.
I don't know, maybe with your parents it could work, you know?
Why though?
I think I do occasionally do FaceTime with my mom when I'm cooking, just because, I just put the iPhone there and I do the video call.
But then if you're moving away, right, like if you're not done with the call and you're ready to leave the room, you just pick up the iPhone and you take it with you, right? My point is like, I don't really think that for the video calling aspect, this gives us anything that we need or that we don't already have served by other devices, where the only thing that it will do is like the hands-free and it's all in the place. But like I just think that the audio calling makes more sense to me than the video calls because it just seems awkward. But I don't know. Who am I to say?
I don't know. This looks kind of clever to me. And I was against the idea of the Echo with the screen. And I was under the assumption that it was going to be a small screen, kind of like a glorified intercom, like a very tiny display. And I wasn't under the impression that Amazon wanted to do like an iPad mini screen. And this makes a lot more sense to me. And the idea of this stationary display that just sits there and you can view menus and you can view, you can tap around if you want, you can view confirmation messages, you can view lyrics, and you can do video calls without having to worry about like using a phone. I don't know, it kind of makes sense to me. There's sort of a relief about it. It just sits there, and if I want to do a video call, I just sit there. Otherwise, I don't.
Don't get me wrong.
There's something about it like...
I think that this device makes as much sense as the Echo does for all the things that it does, and it will be better, right? Like, the idea of being in the kitchen and asking the questions and getting some visual prompts, or, like, asking it to show me a video. Like, I agree with all of that. Like, I think that stuff is good. I think that is a good advancement. The only thing that I just think is honestly superfluous is the video conferencing. I just don't think it's that necessary. But the product as a whole, I think it is a good continuation of the Amazon Echo line. Like it is a logical next step. Like to continue to move down this road. Like, what else can we do if we had a screen? Oh, we can have security cameras on there. Oh, and we can show people video. Like, again, like if I'm working in Amazon, I'm probably going to put video conferencing in the thing, right? Because it's got a camera and a screen on it. Like, you put it in there, but like, I just don't think people are going to use it. But I think that the audio calling is clever. I would be interested to see how that takes off because, like, the Amazon companion app for these devices kind of sucks.
It's terrible.
It's so bad.
Just awful.
I can't see how they're going to do a good experience of audio and video calling inside of the current application that they have because it is terrible.
Something about the video calling, though, that makes sense to me a lot. And I do see your point. There's the drop-in feature. Basically, if you have like an elderly relative and they have an Echo Show, it just sits there, you can drop in and check in on them without having to, to teach them how to, for example, use the FaceTime UI on the phone. And there's something about it. It's like a remote camera for someone that you want to check in with.
That's kind of weird, though.
It is, but it also kind of, I
don't think I like that. I can see why you would like that. I don't like that.
When my grandma was alive, I would have liked something like this, honestly. to be able to drop in and check in on her.
Yeah.
And she used to live alone, and this would have been useful, I think.
Yeah, I agree. In those scenarios, like the scenario you have painted there, that is a good reason to have something like this. I struggle to think of anything outside of elderly care and childcare where you would want something like that.
Yeah.
Like, so can you explain this? I don't think I've seen this feature. What is this drop-in feature?
I haven't.
So, you can just pop in.
I'm only reading through the webpage on the Amazon website, but basically there's the normal calling, so you can do voice calling, you can do video calling, and there's drop-in. And my understanding is you gotta authorize some contacts. Amazon describes them as closest family and friends to be able to just drop in and check in on them. And I assume there's going to be like a simplified UI or a simplified prompt to be able to initiate video calling. That seems to be the idea. I don't know. There's an FAQ on the website. It says, can I specify who gets to drop in on me? And Amazon says, yes, you choose who, if anyone, can drop in on you. You also choose which devices are available for drop-in. For example, you might turn on drop-in for the Echo Show in the kitchen, but not for the Echo Show in the living room.
Okay. I mean, I can see the benefits of this feature, but
it's a very narrow use case, I think.
I don't know if I like it, right? I don't know. I don't know about that. Just because, like, say with the Canary, right? You can do that when I set it in certain modes, and you have the mode has to be changed for the camera to be viewable. This is kind of a little bit like you could just pop in on anyone at any point. I don't know. It just seems a bit strange. But there are uses, right? Like we've established them. There are definite use cases for this, but I can just see uncomfortable conversations.
Yes.
Yes. And also I love the idea of friends. Who is giving this to their friends, not their family?
No, not to their friends, but
who's doing that?
I will give one to my parents, honestly, and to tell them, okay, just put this in the kitchen. Don't do any weird stuff in the kitchen. Oh God! And anytime I want, I can drop in on you guys.
You see, you have to have that conversation. No one wants to, right? But that's it. That's the conversation. It's like you could pop in and then I don't like it, man.
I assume there's going to be like the assistant whose name I won't say will be like, there's a drop-in incoming from Federico in 5 seconds, something like that. I assume. I don't know. We gotta see it in practice. A lot of what Amazon is doing with the Echo sort of floats between genius and uncomfortable. This whole product line.
That is the way of pushing this stuff forward, though, right? Like all of these types of assistants, very frequently they're going to fly too close to the sun, right? Like that is kind of the way that we move this technology forward. Is every now and then something's going to be great, and every now and then something's too close to being weird, right? And it's like it is a balance that they have to find, but they have to go that far to know how far they can go. But there are strange points about it, right? So it's like you can take these features and they can be terrifying and really useful for different people. Like I don't like the sound of this feature, but I can understand that some people could find real genuine use in it. But I think that it makes me feel uncomfortable, honestly. But I can, as I say, I can appreciate the use in it. Like I'm not just going to blanket say that it's creepy because I don't think it is. But it just is for me. I just don't like the thought of it. Not that, I'm not like I don't know, cooking meth or anything.
Can I drop in on you, Mike?
I really don't. I just don't want you to. I mean, like sometimes I'm in my underwear, right? Like that's just the thing. I'm in my home. Leave me alone, all right? I'm in my home. It's my home. I do what I want. I don't want you popping in.
Yeah, I won't drop in. Don't worry. I'll just drop in on Steven. It's fine.
It's like I won't drop in that often,
it's okay with it. He told me before the show he's okay with it. So, yeah.
So here's the thing, right? Yeah. This product is not shipping for like 7 weeks. Now, apparently, there are rumors that Google might be getting ready to show a very similar product at Google I/O next week. I've seen some rumors of that. That's kind of interesting, right? Amazon are like, well, here we go, June 28th.
Do you think it was announced before Google just to put the pre-orders in, for example?
Yeah, I do. This is a thing that companies do, right? Like, big competitor has an event in like a week. We have a product that's nearly ready to go. Why don't we just announce the product now? Right? Like, this is a thing that these companies do because you don't know what they're going to have, right? Lots of companies do this to Apple, for example, right? There's an Apple event on the horizon. Let's make sure we all get our phone announcements out now because we have no idea what they're about to do.
Yeah, like what's the name of the headphone company? Bragi last year.
Yeah.
With the AirPods. Yeah. They just held an event in Cupertino like a day before the Apple one. So yeah, I get it. Makes sense.
I had an interesting conversation with my spouse about this last night. You know, it was heavily rumored that it was coming, and like I've talked about, we use the Echo. It's in our kitchen like everyone else's is. And I pre-ordered one, so we'll see how this goes. But I was surprised to hear her hesitancy to put something like this in the kitchen because it had a screen. Not the camera thing, but that she wasn't in love with the idea of like having a screen, like having that sort of technology in the kitchen, that she likes that the Echo is just a voice assistant. You speak to it, so you're not kind of glued to looking at it. And I found that interesting, and so this thing may end up just in my office with me. But the way Amazon presents is like you have one in your kitchen, you have one in your living room. Like they are trying to build an ecosystem where you have this thing sort of like ever present in your house. And if this sticks in my household, you know, we'll have to put the tall Echo somewhere. So maybe that comes to the office and the Dot goes in the bedroom or something, you know. But I found that interesting that she didn't want like that level of technology in the kitchen. Like she likes the Echo because you can ignore it, and unless you want it. But a screen, you know, like the kids are going to want to look at it all the time, and it's like distracting. And usually, I don't know how y'all's kitchens are, but like where our Echo is like very often stuff gets sat in front of it, so we'd have to like deal with that. It's just an interesting like change from having something that is just a voice assistant.
What I find fascinating is the reverse approach that Amazon is taking with getting developers to build stuff for the Echo platform. So take Apple, for instance, or even Google. They both started with the main OS on the phone, and they get developers to build apps. So native apps, the basic component is the app. And over the years, both Apple and Google have added all of these extra pieces on top of the app. So extensions, widgets, the Siri API, and, iMessage. Instead, Amazon is starting from the very extra pieces. So they're starting with the Echo skills, so very rudimentary skills. You can talk to the Echo and you can receive audio responses. Then they added on top, more textual components, deeper API, deeper conversations, and AI APIs the developers could integrate with. Now they're adding a visual UI. I assume there's going to be, if not today, there's going to be eventually an announcement of with the Echo SDK, you will be able to build visual interfaces. And so Amazon is getting closer to having this app ecosystem that didn't start from the traditional App Store. Well, they tried with the Amazon App Store and the Fire Phone, but now they're trying again with a reverse approach of the main platform owners, which are, Apple and Google. And instead, they're starting from these islands, and they're eventually maybe gonna have their own OS, but in a different way. I find that very fascinating and different from the rest of the industry, honestly.
Yeah, I feel like of everyone that is doing this, I mean, and we'll see what Google come out with, and we'll see what Apple may eventually come out with. But, like in the world in these things currently exist, right, there are Cortana devices starting to pop up. Amazon definitely seems the most serious, right? Like they are the ones that are really putting a lot of weight behind this. I feel like the Google Home doesn't really seem to have really pushed forward, and I hope that we see something from them next week. But like it was like, oh, we're going to add these different integrations, and they added some, and then that was kind of it. Where Amazon is very much just like, we're an open platform, come and do what you need, and I feel like that there is more advancement going on here than there is with our companies, especially when this is like the fifth device, Echo device?
Yeah.
Right? Because they did the regular one, the Dot, the little Bluetooth, the little battery powered one, then the Look, and now the Show, right?
Yeah,
they are really iterating quickly and continuing to advance their technology. This is a serious play for Amazon. Nobody knows how well these things actually sell, but however many it is, it's enough money or enough sales for Amazon to believe that they're onto something, to the point that they will continue to keep making and releasing new devices.
And what should be, maybe to a degree, concerning for Apple is the degree that Amazon is going after developers by offering them APIs to do stuff like OCR, AI features in the cloud. So to get developers to rely on their platforms, kind of like they did for websites with with AWS, they're doing now for machine learning, for AI features, computer vision, OCR, all of these modern implementations. They're getting developers to rely on them. And they're also saying, now you can use those SDKs and those APIs from us in your Amazon Echo skills and apps. You can also implement them in other iOS apps. So they're kind of gaining a foothold in the developers' ecosystem in a different way. And that is why I believe eventually Apple is going to get serious about, telling developers, well, now you can also have our, API for AI, machine learning, OCR, all of this modern computer vision stuff. You can have them natively from us as well. Maybe it's going to be a CloudKit component, but if you look at Amazon, what they're doing with the Echo platform, with the voice services and with the AI stuff, even if you look at Microsoft with the it used to be called Project Oxford, now I think it's called Microsoft Cognitive Services, but both companies are serious about getting developers to rely on this stuff, voice activation, text processing, text-to-speech, speech-to-text, all of these modern features that Apple doesn't offer, in the cloud. It doesn't offer as a CloudKit component. And I think Apple eventually has to get serious about this space. Otherwise, developers are going to rely on Amazon just like website owners rely on Amazon today for CDNs and, any kind of content delivery, really.
So, Stephen, you mentioned you'd ordered one, right?
I did, yep.
The shows, okay. And Federico, are you gonna? I mean, it's not available outside of the US right now.
Yes, but thanks to our common friend John, I indirectly pre-ordered one, and I assume I will get it eventually. If,
so
UPS.
You're not going via a sketchy eBay salesperson.
Well, I mean, I don't think John is a sketchy individual. So no, not the easy. No, he's a great guy. So he's gonna ship one to me from the US. Hopefully it'll work just as, the Echo from the US works in Italy, which is you don't get most of the location stuff, but you get everything else.
I'm probably going to do exactly what I did last time, like a bit of a wait and see. I want to see how you guys react to it, because I'm not really that keen on doing that whole thing of like buying one from the US, getting it shipped to me, because I like what I currently have. I'm fine with it. Like I'm not aching for a touchscreen version of this. I think it would be nice, but like I'm not like, oh, if only it, it's not really a thing that I have. But if you guys get it, or if people start to get it and love it as much as they love the original one, then maybe I'll pick one up when I'm in sometime in America. I mean, what is it, like end of June this thing comes out? Or so yeah, maybe sometime in August or something. But yeah, I mean, or they may just announce it in the UK, which Amazon, you have such strange product sales, very peculiar. So we'll see. But yeah, that is it. The Amazon Echo Show. What do you think of that name, by the way? I mean, I made jokes about it, but like...
I like it.
Yeah? It does the job, right?
I think so.
Yeah. Want to find our show notes for this week? relay.fm/connected/141. Thanks to Incapsula and Away for sponsoring this week's episode. If you'd like to find Federico online, he's over at macstories.net. He's at Viticci on Twitter, Viticci. And of course, as well as his shows on Relay FM, Federico hosts the App Stories podcast, which is it's appstories.net, right, Federico?
Yes.
You can go check that out. Stephen is at 512pixels.net. He's at ISMH on Twitter, and he is the producer. So fancy. I called him a producer at the start of the show, but he is the actual producer of Download on Relay FM, which you can go check it out at relay.fm/download. So it's a great show. It's getting better and better every single week. You should go check it out. I am at iMike, IMYKE, and I don't really do anything else. Thanks so much for listening. Until next time, say goodbye, guys.
Arrivederci.
Adios.